You are watching the Gribbly's Folly Sunday Antisocial Hour, that time each week when I smoke my pipe and complain about humanity, while answering all of its questions. And if you are a piece of humanity with an itching, burning, scaly, engorged, swollen question for me, leave it in the comments of this video down below with the hashtag AskGribbs, and I will answer any question. It is Sunday, September 14th, 2025, but this is past Gribbs. I'm recording this Friday night. Who knows what's going to happen tomorrow? This might be all out of date by the time you see the video, but the most important thing we're going to discuss is that I have a new pipe. Tonight I will be smoking my tried and true Beck's Old Limey Bastard English tobacco in this lovely pouch gifted to me by old friend of the channel, John Galdieri, and I'll be smoking it in a brand new Peterson spigot gifted to me. Y'all don't give me stuff. Don't send me stuff. Don't, but Cascadian Piper sent me this pipe, and I don't know how he knew, but this is both, it's all three. It's a brand, shape, and color that I do not have in my collection. I don't know enough about Petersons to know if a spigot is the same as an Paul, but I've always wanted an Paul, and here I will channel Norbo and say, just look at that green. It's green, but a nice dark, understated green, like me. Can you tell I'm in a good mood? We're gonna have, you should buckle up, but we're gonna have a fun one today. Oh, on this hill I will die. You should always light the inaugural smoke of a new pipe with a match. Wonderful. I can already tell that this pipe hangs delightfully. But because it hangs, to keep it in the frame, I have to look snobbish, right? That's okay. I've been accused of worse than being snobbish, mostly in the last 24 hours. I was talking to Les Brady about this. And we were talking last night, and I was like, how you doing? He's like, well, I think you've had a rough day. And yeah, I did have I've had a rough week. I mean, honestly, it's been like a rough decade at this point. But he was saying, he was like, clearly this video set some folks off, and I was like, yeah, it did, and I've spent all day removing comments and then responding to others, and he was like, well, you did kind of bring it on yourself. And he's right. So I'm sure by now that you all know that I made a video the other night at 3:30 in the morning because I was very upset. And for the record, I want to say that when I made that video, I had no intention of offending anyone, and my main worry when I was making that video was that, which isn't an apology for offending anyone, by the way. My main worry was that I was oversharing, that I was admitting that sometimes you hide and blubber in your room. That's a tough thing to admit, especially when your YouTube analytics say that your audience is 99.9% male and we're all just a bunch of, curmudgeonly old dudes smoking our pipes. We don't like to really put our emotions out there, nor do we like to connect those emotions to like deeply held beliefs about the nature of human connection to the divine. That's hard stuff to talk about, but I really believed what I said. And that didn't matter because no one understood it. Actually, most people understood it, but the people that left comments didn't understand. But this is the part of the creative process. And what happened was that I was responding to something on Reddit, and I wrote this comment. I was responding to someone who was like in deep trauma, having seen the video of the Charlie Kirk shooting, and so was I. And I was like trying to help this person through it, and I wrote this comment, and I was like, "This is what I've learned from trauma." And then I was like, I really need to say this louder. Like, more people are out there tonight in a lot of pain. Not that I can like help them with their pain, but I have seen enough and have learned enough because other people helped me with my pain. I have learned enough to add a wrinkle, to add this thing that this hurts so much because it offends our most deeply held values. And if you have those values, you're doing okay. We need to go ahead and say that political violence is abhorrent. Full stop. There are no qualifications on that. That is a basic American value. Furthermore, there's nothing you can say. There's no words that can fall out of your mouth that will justify someone murdering you. Just so we're clear. Just so we identify that as settled law in this garage. John Gallieri asked Gribbs, why don't they routinely use drones for security and surveillance during these high-profile, high-risk events? Wouldn't aerial surveillance spot the guy on the roof the second he was up there? I have asked this question a lot recently. I think we've all been wondering this since Butler, right? And I remember talking about this either on the channel or when I was live blogging. I was covering a Trump rally, and I was looking at the Secret Service agents, and this was before the election. And I was like, man, these guys are not the A-team. Like, I have covered rallies with sitting presidents, and you can tell those guys are the A-team. These guys were not the A-team. They did have drones in the air, but I'm pretty sure those were local PD drones because they have those at every protest or whatever. And why didn't? And I think they did have drones at Butler, but they just didn't see the guy. Am I misremembering that? Gosh, that assassination attempt was that's ages ago now. In both these situations, these assholes should have never gotten a shot off. There's no excuse for letting this happen. I mean, I guess you could. A lot of people will say, "Hey, Charlie Kirk is just like some small-time, influencer," but he's not. He wasn't. He really wasn't. He was a big deal, and someone should have looked at the roofline. I would have looked at the roofline. I mean, that's to some extent Monday morning quarterbacking, but I'm just a photographer, and when I show up to a protest, I look at the roofline. Now we have to stop again to make another disclaimer, which is that I'm not saying all that to promote some conspiracy theory that this was arranged by any outside conspirees. I don't think there's any evidence for that now, but it's just Friday. Old Pack Mule says, why don't you just spit on his grave to mourn his death and call him vile and a fearmonger in the same video is the same left-leaning hypocrisy we see all the time. I am horrified that this happened. I am very sorry he died. I have deep sympathy for his family. I made that video to try to help people that were losing their shit, having been traumatized by a video on the internet. That's what we were talking about. We all just watched a human being's body come apart in a violent way. It doesn't matter if you like the person. That was the point of what I was trying to get across of hang on, liberals, don't be mad at me for not saying bad things about Charlie Kirk. Think about this for a second. What was going through my head was not oh, I can really piss off some Trumpers here. It was people are going to be mad at me for not disclaiming Charlie Kirk. That was not a concern, it turns out. I don't spit on his grave because that would be needlessly rude and hurtful. And he's not buried yet because he's going to lie in honor in the Capitol Rotunda. His casket has already been carried by Marines onto Air Force Two. Here's a list of people who have lain in honor or in state in the Capitol Rotunda in my lifetime. Jimmy Carter, President. Ralph Puckett, the last living Korean War Medal of Honor recipient. Herschel Woody Williams, the last living World War II Medal of Honor recipient. Don E. Young, member of the House. Harry Reid, member of the Senate. Robert J. Dole, member of the House and Senate. Brian Sicknick, Capitol Police officer, killed at the U.S. Capitol in the line of duty on January 6th. Ruth Bader Ginsburg, John R. Lewis, Elijah Cummings, George H.W. Bush, John S. McCain, Billy Graham, Gerald Ford, President, Rosa Parks, Ronald Reagan, and the last one in my lifetime, unknown soldier from the war in Vietnam. So now we're going to put an alt-right podcaster in the Capitol Rotunda. Okay. So many people came at me very hard for saying, how dare you say that Charlie Kirk had no empathy? This is a quote from Charlie Kirk. I can't stand the word empathy, actually. I think empathy is a made-up New Age term that does a lot of damage. Random Exits TJ says, oh yes, privileged Americans shouldn't see anything like that. It's everyday events in many other countries. I guess you need to see somebody explode in front of you before you're numb to things like that. Welcome to the new America. This was a sentiment that was echoed by a lot of people, and it's not invalid. It's not invalid. Still, I'm gonna try, if my audience is mostly curmudgeonly dudes that don't know how to deal with their emotions, and I have a little bit of insight into something that can help, I'm gonna say it. And I will say again, as I said in that video, no one should see that. No one. Watching people die peacefully is traumatic. No one should see what so many of us saw this week. A bunch of different douchebags said this was obviously the work of a trans-liberal communist. You're in a cult. Three Rivers Forge said you had a choice. And you know what? I'm actually angry here because I really regret giving you the benefit of the doubt and actually talking to you several videos ago. You weren't interested in good faith conversation. And you know what? We're gonna back up to that actually. I posted a video of a man screaming, being dragged away by masked men in front of the Washington Monument, and Three Rivers Gorge says, blah, 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 blah. That man had been arrested before and had been charged with assaulting a minor. You people don't care about assaulting minors. How are those Epstein files reading for you? What do you think about all that? Oh, that's right. There is no information because all the Republicans who ran on the release of the Epstein files voted to block the release of the Epstein files. I'm a big enough man to admit when someone has gotten under my skin. So you, sir, you know what? Sit down at Windows Paint or whatever and make yourself a certificate like a Nobel Prize or whatever and just print it out, hang it on your wall. You got to me. Here's what did it. You mentioned Jesus, which is good, but remember that Jesus had rules and commands. He told us to not do things, to not accept things. Jesus did not tell you to love everyone regardless of what people do. But when the Pharisees heard that he had silenced the Sadducees, they came together, and one of them, a lawyer, asked him a question to test him. Teacher, which is the greatest commandment in the law? And he said unto them, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the greatest and first commandment. And a second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. On these two commandments hang the whole of the law and all the prophets. Matthew 22:34. Revised Standard Edition. What church do you attend, sir? Jesus did not tell us to love everyone regardless of what they do. After all, even he did not meet that standard. Tell me who it was that Jesus didn't love. Ren says, I am so sorry for you. You truly don't know what empathy is. If you did, you wouldn't have said that. May God bless you with the gift of wisdom. Thank you. You're being disingenuous. I did my best to outline and explain my experience of empathy, and to directly relate that to spiritual teachings. You don't understand that, or you pretend not to, or you lack the skill to argue materially, or you're just really mad that I insulted your hero. The point, which I thought was pretty well illustrated of my video, is that empathy is what we feel even for those we find vile and craven, like Charlie Kirk. He advocated violence against the queer community, saying that God's perfect law called for their stoning. He presumed to qualify Christ's commandments in the gospel. He preached a willfully ignorant and perverted understanding of the relationship between the Old and New Testaments. He said that the American Civil Rights Act was a huge mistake. He advocated racist replacement theory. He said that if he had a black pilot, he'd be worried whether the man was qualified. When he took a debate question from a German, he smilingly referenced Deutschland über alles. He supported the death penalty, which, though I strongly disagree with it, is not in itself an extreme position to take, except that he wanted executions to be public and televised so that children could watch them. He said that he would force his 10-year-old daughter to deliver a baby if she became pregnant from rape. This is the man you're uplifting as a Christian. This is the man by whom you're setting your moral compass. Political violence is abhorrent. What happened to Charlie Kirk is a terrible crime. But I'm not going to pretend he wasn't vile, and I'm not going to help you pretend that you're arguing in good faith. Okay, all right, we're done with all that. We can move on, and I am actually super excited to announce a new feature that will occasionally be part of the Sunday Antisocial. Are you ready? Are you ready? Because this morning, you are going to witness the first installment of the Gribley's Folly completely unrelated history lesson. The completely unrelated history lesson is when I smoke my pipe and read about history purely for nostalgia, having no bearing whatsoever on current events. Today's completely unrelated history lesson is about Horst Wessel. Born in 1907, Horst Wessel became a member of the Sturmabteilung, the SA, which was the storm detachment militia of the Nazi Party. Wessel became a propaganda symbol in Nazi Germany following his 1930 assassination by two members of the Communist Party of Germany. After his death, Nazi propaganda minister Joseph Goebbels elevated him to a martyr for the Nazi Party. At 19, Wessel enrolled in Friedrich Wilhelm University to study law. He also joined far-right political parties and paramilitary groups, ultimately ending up as a member of the SA. Wessel soon began to frequent bars and hang out in flop houses with young people, and also founded his own youth group to raise our boys to be real German men. In January 1930, Wessel was assassinated at his door by members of the Communist Party of Germany. Even as he was lying wounded in the hospital, Goebbels was already releasing reports asserting that those who carried out the attack were degenerate communist subhumans. Goebbels had been looking for someone to turn into a martyr for the Nazi cause. He saw in Wessel's shooting the opportunity of a propaganda bonanza. He eulogized Wessel in his newspaper in overtly Christian tones. Goebbels' plan was to turn Wessel's funeral into a mass demonstration full of speeches and processions of SA men in uniform. The funeral was filmed and turned into a major propaganda event by the Nazi Party. Wessel's coffin was paraded through large parts of the center of Berlin in a procession lasting many hours. After his death, he became an even more powerful symbol. A march for which he had written the lyrics was renamed the Horst Wessel Song and became the official anthem of the Nazi Party. After Adolf Hitler came to power, the song became a co-national anthem of Germany, along with Deutschland über alles. Hitler called Wessel a Blutzug, or blood witness, whose song became a battle hymn for millions. And that concludes our first completely unrelated history lesson, a little remembrance of Horst Wessel. What an interesting guy. This is an excellent pipe, Brian. Thank you so much. These videos are hard to make. I don't like making angry videos. But to make a video like this, I have to do a lot of research. And my father was a advanced theologian, and the part from Matthew also appears in Luke, and it's from Luke where we get the story of the Good Samaritan, which came after love your neighbor as yourself, and then there's some other Weasley Pharisee that says, well, yeah, but who's our neighbor? And of course, the reason that it's called the Good Samaritan and not the Good Nazarene or the Good Roman is that the Hebrews detested the Samaritans. So that's Christ's way of responding to the Sadducee or the Pharisee or whoever, with the man who's trying to litigate the question of love. Christ's way of responding is to force that man. When he says, well, who was the man's neighbor? Well, he's forced to answer the Samaritan, and Jesus just says, yeah, go and do likewise. It's so beautiful. I don't give a shit who you hate. I don't give a shit what they did. Go and do likewise. And I was driving home the other day, and I got behind this truck with like a handmade bumper sticker on it. It was actually in two parts, hand-drawn bumper stickers. Love all, fear none. It's not going to compete with keep the ends out for the ties that bind, because I mean that encompasses a lot too, But it's close. Keep the ends out for the ties that bind.